Hello, everyone. I'm Meredith Porte, and welcome to Conversations with Friends. Today, we have, I don't want to say an old friend, but he's been a friend to the Brahma Kumaris for, I want to say, many years.
Decades.
Daniel Atchison-Nevel is really a household name in the world of acupuncture in South Florida, and probably beyond as well, right? He has been doing it, as he just said, I think you said over 40 years, right?
Yeah.
An acupuncturist, a teacher, a facilitator, getting everybody involved in all of the different projects that he does all over South Florida. And he really wants to rejuvenate the world. But we're starting here with South Florida. Right? We're going to start with South Florida because Dan has a very interesting project that's coming up very soon. We're going to start with that, and then we can get more into what he does, in terms of healing, and he does a lot of that. So, Dan, it's great to have you on the program.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I love this idea of what it is that you're doing, and I think that I read that you said it's all about bringing the community together. People need to come together in community. So Tell me what your idea is and what's behind this.
Well, as a person who's had a personal cultivation practice and also been involved in a lot of different communities, my own personal community, which over the last 3 years has gone global, but our local community really hasn't been able to gather in, safe ways in quite a while, and we're hankering to see each other. And we're launching May 1st, actually April 30th now, the Three Womb Academy, which is an expansion of my Acupuncture Academy, which was the NSEV Healing Academy. And we're taking it from being just something that's teaching practitioners to having a lot of everybody classes. So this is it's a global academy. It's online. We've got students all over the world now, which is very exciting. But, we act and think globally, but we're big into acting locally. And I'm born, raised, and lived basically my whole life in Miami. And I have a special love in my heart for South Florida. And so whenever we do anything or have the opportunity to do anything, I try to do events that are healing oriented, right? And that can also bring a lot of different kinds of healers and healthcare providers and meditators together in community. And so that's what we're trying to do. We're going to try to have a little community gathering, not so little, of my friends and people I feel have something really deep and wonderful to offer as a way of introducing it, our academy. Simultaneously, Jared Bystrom, who's been a collaborator of mine for many years now, and is a wonderful sound healer, has grown a very exciting project of his own, the Miami Sound Institute. And again, the last 3 years, he's taken a group of sound healers and taken them deep into a very serious training, and they're doing wonderful events all over the community now. So this is sort of a beautiful collaboration between us to have all kinds of healing events and interactive events from food for the mind and for the body and for the spirit over the course of 4 or 5 afternoons on a Sunday afternoon where we'll all be gathering together.
And did you mention that it is free? It's a free event. You might have mentioned it, but say it again, that it's free. We'll put something up on the screen if people want to sign up for this free.
It's a free event. Everybody's doing it because as a community of healers, we really love to gather together. We just want to see each other. And when we don't just get it together and just hang out, it's like we and our purpose of this is to really give to the community. And I want to add what's really another special component about this is that it's happening at a really exciting place. Tony Cho and his wife, Jimena, are really doing a lot of very conscious development on the planet. And Tony started a project called The Future of Cities. And he's really trying to make regenerative cities. And he could speak much better about that than I can. But he's got a piece of property that he's is using as a community center, as a community gathering spot, in addition to his own offices. And it's the future of cities, climate and innovation hub. And it's in Little Haiti, and it's where we're doing it. It's got, I think, 15,000 feet outside and 4,500 feet inside. And it's a magnificent thing that he's putting together, where it's a really a sample space that he's creating for what can happen all over the world. So I'm very excited about doing it there, because Tony's crew will be giving tours of the facility. So he's got solar roofs and all kinds of other things that I can't explain too well, but basically monitoring in real time all the energy usage that they do. So it's a fabulous facility, and we're happy to be, working with him to be able to create this event for the entire community for free.
Well, it's so great because, when people think of South Florida, let's face it, they still think of the beaches. And now they're talking all the time about the restaurants and, things like that. And I don't think that people see South Florida as a healing community. But to me, isn't that your idea, is to kind of make people see it in a different way as more people begin to tune into these kinds of healing, spirituality, and just all kinds of things, but they don't really know each other, and the world doesn't really think of South Florida like that.
And that's part of what we're trying to do. South Florida actually has an incredibly vibrant healing arts community, from artists, little artists who are doing healing art, to the incredible yoga community, there's a lot going on with native gardening and regenerative gardening, to an incredible acupuncture community, which is what I'm most intimately involved with, to lots of different types of meditation communities, to a conscious feminine movement community, to all these different types of communities. And we're trying to bring them together, both online to offer things globally, right, but also together in community for the afternoon. And again, to bring our healing arts community together with a purpose, to present this offering for free to the community. And it might seem random when you get there, but it's not. It's like I've designed it so that individuals can come and have a very particular experience, because there's a model after 40 years of teaching acupuncture and cultivation or meditation, however you want to frame that word. I have a very particular model that I work from, called the three womb model. And inspired by some of the ideas that are in Chinese medicine, but it's really specifically based around this idea that we can view human beings as the universe giving it birth to itself through us. And it's a very interesting concept. This was a realization I had some 20 years ago in the context of a meditation. We see the clouds, we see the ocean, we see everything. But internally, the same thing is happening. It's the universe giving birth to itself. So we can be viewed as a womb, right? And then we can view this from the standpoint of, like, we want to organize that information. Like the upper womb is thinking and imagination and all the senses. And the upper womb is our embodied emotional world as we move through the world and receive the world. And the lower womb is the womb of breath, individual, cosmic breath, and connection. Connection often is spirit, or this direct knowing that we're not really separate, right? We're not really connected because we're not really separate. And so any experience, any kind of meditation or Tai Chi or yoga or art or the reading of a book or studying the classics can be classified. We can understand it through this contextual overlay of the three wounds. So this event, like everything I do, event is put together like we got to have something for the thinking, the cognition. We have to have something to help expand the imagination. There have to be things to enliven the senses. We have to have the body moving through the event and receiving in the event. And we have to, of course, cultivate the breath and spirit and connection to our community, right? And it starts with our community, but also to the very land. You know, as someone who grew up in Miami and South Florida, I have a great love for the land. I'm adore Biscayne Bay as a you know, when I walk around in the different areas, I really can have a great appreciation for the places in South Florida that have managed to survive, right? They got the natural spots in Miami that haven't been paved over. They have to have a certain special energy to them. So the parks of South Florida and the beaches where people go to play. But if you're there earlier in the morning or in the evening, this is a very deep, sort of primordial, very connected to nature and spirit kind of experience you can have. And so this is what we're trying to accomplish globally online with our Three Wounds Academy. We're having all kinds of things. I'm operating on what I call the hug principle. We've started the hug principle. We've started the academy, and everybody's going to be teaching there are people that I feel like I've hugged, right? I know them, I hug them. They're dear friends, people I've known for decades, and that I respect the work that they're doing, you know, both locally and globally. And so this is the same principle that we're with this event, what we're trying to do at everything we do. It's like, we want something for the mind, we want something for the imagination, we want something for the senses, and there'll be all these things for the body to move and receive, and breath and spirit and connection. And that's what we're trying to accomplish, you know, in this afternoon. And I have to tell you, the issue is not getting enough people who have great talent, skills, and spirit to share. It's, you know, we can only have so much. So we have an explosion over the last few decades of people who are meditators and cultivators and really wisdom teachers. It's been, you know, always for me a joyful experience just to be able to, like, spending time.
I love to hear you say this because when I started meditating, you know, it was over 35 years ago. I felt like I was totally alone, you know. I showed up at the Brahma Kumari's Meditation Center and it was like, oh my God, people told me that I was weird then. And I was concerned about, you know, I wanted to share it, but I was concerned about who I shared it with, because what would people think of me? Not that I was so concerned about my image or anything, but it was more, I didn't, you know, people would say, oh, are you weird? Or, you know, what's happening to you? And now, in a way, one of the really great things that's happened in the world, I think, you know, it's probably because there's communities like this all over the world, right? I mean, not like what you're doing, but people that are tuning into this, to this kind of, you know, to me, it's really all about a search, you know, starting with the inner self, realizing there's more to life than the things that we see outside, you know, the success or the, you know, all the stuff that people do. It's the inner journey. And that's what, to me, you're tapping into. It has to start with that, right?
Oh, no, absolutely. I agree with you. I believe that, you know, that change happens simultaneously, internally and externally, right? So that one has to direct their gaze both outwardly and sense the interconnectedness, and inwardly and sense the interconnectedness. And so for a lot of people who have cultivated internal practice or a meditation practice, that's really putting the gaze inward, right? They complete their practice by doing work out in the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for a lot of people who are doing a lot of great things out in the world, they're finding they can complete their practice by gazing inward and starting to cultivate an internal terrain. So yes, you know, you use the example of the Brahma Kumaris, and you know, I've been blessed to have relationships and friendships with, you know, people who have been Brahma Kumaris for
Quite a few of them, Dan, I know, and they all love you, right? Yeah.
decades.
Yeah.
And but also other meditation traditions that have been around in their little nooks and their little crannies, doing their things, nurturing their communities, developing community. And I think the thing has happened now, it's mindfulness has brought a lot of this out into the world in a different way. Things like even kirtan that's happening in a new way. I always joke about this, but I'm dead serious. When I started out doing acupuncture, we could have brought the entire holistic healing community in South Florida together in like one of my treatment rooms and had a lot of room over, right? It was just very few of us. And today, I practice on 41st Street on Miami Beach. There's got to be 5 or 7 or 10 times as many holistic practitioners on the block now than there were in all of South Florida 40 years ago. And this is a beautiful thing, right?
Yeah.
Watching the growth, and it hasn't been separate, right? Of sort of the whole sustainable movement and people starting to be concerned about their yards and their gardens. One of the things we're going to do, we have a class I'm really excited about. It's nicknamed Eat a Weed, but to know it grows around you, right? That's edible. It's going to relate to the nature around you, very, very locally, like your own yard, right? And get into a lot of the different restorative principles in the garden, or really appreciating a lot of the ignored crafts, what have been traditionally women's crafts, like felting and knitting, that these are actually very important contemplation and meditation practices. So really finding out, tapping into the music community who's finding that there's healing in sound, or the artistic community that there's healing in art, but bringing a conscious awareness. And I think that a lot of this has happened because groups like the Brahma Kumaris have been around, and other meditation groups where people I don't need to tell you, it seeps into your entire life, right? So everything you do, the purpose of meditation, I have a fairly deeply entrenched meditation practice that I do every day. And the purpose is not to become good at sitting still, right? The purpose for me, I define it as so that I can go from point A to point B with as much emotional ease and as much external grace as possible, so that I can navigate my days in that way, with curiosity and care and compassion and tenderness. That's to me the purpose of having a personal practice. And I'm seeing this happen more and more, even as we're living in this, world right now that seems to be having a lot of, let's say, violence and drama and chaos. I'm seeing that the counterpoint to that is more and more people gathering together to try to really heal.
Is and how terrible the world is. And I find I kind of lose energy when I do that, because all of a sudden my mind and my emotions, everything goes to all the terrible things that are happening. And a lot of people, they don't know about these kinds of things that you're talking about, or, or they haven't really embraced it. And my feeling is that the more that, like, you're creating a sense of community, and all these different spiritual organizations in South Florida or wherever people are creating this, where people can move from the negativity, that seems to be out there, to it's like another world, isn't it? It's a world of positivity, of possibility, of connection, of all those good things. And I would think, you can tell me this, since you spent years, being an acupuncturist and studying and researching and everything, I would think people's health is affected as a result of just feeling differently about the world and about community.
Yes, no, absolutely. Now, I do want to make 2 points. And
Okay.
I think that it's really important. You see Kuan Yin point behind me. And, Kuan Yin for me represents, her full name translates something like "she who hears the cries of the world." And I think it's really important, there's a long Kuan Yin tale that's probably too long to tell right now, but basically Kuan Yin chose to stay and service the world when she could have been like in Nirvana. That's a super short version. But the idea is that we have a responsibility to hear the cries of the world. But the cries of the world includes our own internal cries, right? So we have to tenderly attend to our internal cries. And then there's part of being integrated, right? Really feeling wholesome to know that all these things, these traumas that are happening to so many people in so many ways, that we have to tend to them. And so one of the things I spend a lot of time with, and we did in our academy, and we're going forward with as we become the Three Wounds Academy online, is that there's a lot of compassion fatigue. And what can we do? So I have a course I call Healing the Healers. But I say everybody can heal it, right? Whether you're a professional healthcare provider or not, all of us are being called to be healers now. All of us are being called to hear the cries of the world, whether it's in our family or among friends or a more extended community, when we're being called to become allies. How can we do this, right? How can we tenderly tend to our own selves while tending to these traumas in the world in a way that's not coming from a place of anger or rage or great fear? These are all things that are real human emotions, and I don't think they're to be avoided. They're actually to be processed. And we actually are going to have an exhibit at the event, the Healing Extravaganza, where we're going to try to help demonstrate a little bit what we call riding the dragon. And riding the dragon is to fight or flee your emotions, right? It's like our emotions we treat sometimes like dragons. In the Western mythology, dragons are to, you overcome, you fight the dragon, you slay the dragon, or you flee. Well, that's as it was never successful for me. And what I've learned over time is some other cultures, ancient cultures, wisdom traditions, have the myth of the dragon shows up, your fear shows up, your anger shows up. It's not to be fled and it's not to be fought, but you can ride those. And how can we, what are the tools that we can cultivate to say, I'm feeling really angry or I'm feeling very fearful? How do we deal with those so that then when we go out into the world to help people, right, or to attend to these things, we're not doing it out of a state of great fear or a state of great anger, which basically on the undertones will be sharing this dissonance, this fear or this anger with the world. But if we can embrace our own and learn how to process it, how to ride that anger, right, then it can still be fuel to lead us out to tend to the cries of the world, but we can do so without burning out, right, or burning out as much. And so I believe that there's a disconnection happens if you can see another person suffering, right, and you're not called to tend to it. And I even understand compassion in the terms of the three wounds, right? The upper wound compassion is the thinking compassion. It's really understanding what another person's going through. First, you have to have the clarity of mind to really I get it, which means dissolving your own habituated thinking patterns. Like if someone's situation is radically different than your own, it takes some work to get your mind around that, right? You have to be able to imagine what it is to walk in their shoes. So that's imagine, but that doesn't necessarily compel you to do anything. It's like, oh, I get it. Step number two is you really embody and we really feel what another person is suffering. And that's right? And that gets us a little closer to maybe really feeling compelled to do something. So this is this middle wound compassion. And, the middle wound, what's beautiful about it is when we see other people enjoy, we feel joyous, right? Like we all feel good when we see somebody being really happy. Somebody being happy or joyous around us, it's actually contagious because it goes into us, right? And the same thing, unless if we shut the whole thing down, we feel another suffering. This is the middle wound. And then the lower wound, this is really where the compassion comes into play. The lower wound is when you know that there's really no difference between you and another human being, or you and an animal who's suffering, or you and the planet suffering. We are creatures of this planet, right? We are like if you came from far away in outer space and you were looking at planet Earth, we would be of the Earth. And when you feel that connection, then you're compelled, like Kuan Yin, you're compelled not only to hear the cries of the world, but to act upon them.
Yeah.
And this doesn't have to be destructive if we have a cultivation practice and we're doing the work that we don't enter it full of fear and full of anger. And again, this is, you know, an afternoon event, but these are the kinds of tasks we hope to take on, so that the three womb model, what it allows us to do is, like, for you, let's say yourself or anybody else, oh, I've had this beautiful cultivation practice for all of mine. I know that, but here's the pieces that are missing, and maybe I can work with this in this way. And so this is the, I've got a little long, but I really,
this is it. You've just, to me, described exactly the process, you know, that's necessary in order for us to help ourselves. We have to start with ourselves. But again, once we get ourselves, and we can reach out to others and realize we are here to serve, and we're here, we're all brothers, and, you know, I was just, and sisters, you know, then something happens and we can actually serve others, you know. But it's almost like you have to have all the components, but little by little. Not that everybody starts out being able to do this. I was just listening to James Cameron, the filmmaker, you know, Avatar and all that, and that's one of the things that he did say. He was on CNN actually, and I was really struck with what he says, is that we are all part of the same tribe, and we're all connected. He says, and that's what we need to do in this world right now. And he's doing it through a lot of different things. He feels that his messages come through in his movies. And, you know, I thought, you know, there are these people, mostly it's people, I think, just regular people changing, you know. But then I think there are people who are maybe, you know, in the public eye, and they're spreading messages that are powerful or empowering. And so something is happening. And I just love the, you know, and, you know, this change that's happening, which as you say, when you started, you know, Miami, on Miami Beach, I grew up on Miami Beach too. We used to say on Miami Beach. We didn't say in Miami Beach. I don't know what you said, but
I'm still on. I see in it, it's a little, you know.
Yeah. Or you say, and like I said, I didn't feel that this was happening. And so now it is happening in Miami, this shift. So for those, again, because I think we're just about out of time, I just want to, you know, just maybe repeat the event, just say something again, because I don't want people to miss this. And we can put up on the screen how they go about registering. It's free. It's free, and it's happening the last April 30th.
April 30th, yes.
In Miami.
We have all kinds of activities. We're going to have sound healing experiences throughout the day. We're going to end the day with a very inclusive sound healing experience for everybody. Yeah, this is the site where you can go and get your free tickets. But if I read off there a little bit, we're going to have all kinds of experiences throughout the day. We're going to have a section where there'll be talks all day long. We're going to have different types of meditation going on throughout the day. So imagine like this little, you know, type of community gathering. We'll have mini healing sessions. We're going to have shared group acupuncture sessions throughout the day. There's one of my favorite activities. You see the picture on the flyer. People look at it. There's this we make these mandalas, but it's very simple: peace sign, and then another more complex Sri Yantra mandala. We bring out the colored sand, and the whole community sits and works to make the mandala together. It's really a lot of fun. We're going to have an herbal elixir bar. So if you see those kids, they're working on a peace sign mandala there. Those are little grains.
Look at that.
Little grains of sand, yeah. And on the top there, you see people having a shared group acupuncture. And basically what this is a group of people get together and are all having the exact same, what we call an extraordinary vessel treatment. And basically what we're going to be doing throughout the day there is what we call the Ren, or the conception, or the mother vessel, or the vessel that connects us all, right? That connection vessel. So you'll have these experiences throughout the day. And yeah, I'm sure there's so much that I'm leaving out, but it really is a day. It's orchestrated that at some point you'll have the opportunity to do something to help cultivate the mind, you know, clarity, mental clarity, some imaginative exercise. There'll be something for every sense, from aromatherapy to actual touch therapy experiences. We're going to have some tastings, herbal elixirs, and then we'll have movement. We're going to have ways that you receive the world and ways that you move through the world. And then we're going to have some really beautiful, where we're going to try to gather everybody there. We're expecting, you know, hundreds of people or more. So we're going to try to do like big, large moon circles where everybody get in a circle by their lunar birthday, which a lot of people are no longer.
I think it's going to be sold out, this free event center. People, definitely many of our people will be going. And Veronica, I know that she's going to be our director at our meditation center in Miami. Veronica is going to be giving a meditation, right? We're thrilled about that.
So excited about having Veronica come and lead a meditation too. And
Yeah.
Lots of different meditations going on throughout the day. Because I want to, a lot of people have never meditated, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of meditators haven't tried some of the other things that we're going to have there. So it's a gathering. So for people who haven't meditated, it's so nice to be able to come and sample. Like, people should find what works for them, because people ask me all the time, what kind of meditation should I do? And I'm like, well, try out a few and see what you like. And if it's something you look forward to doing, then continue doing it. Because I'm not disciplined. I meditate a lot because I love it.
Yeah, I could tell.
I always wonder, if I hadn't found the meditations that I love to do, would I meditate so much? But so I find it really works. And so that's what we're trying to do too. We're going to have like different kinds of meditations and qigongs and different ways to gaze.
People aren't going to want to leave, Dan. That's the problem. And I just love this idea that this is your way, and the others that you're working with, of really, wanting to rejuvenate our community. Like you said earlier, it's in the process, things are happening in our community, but there is nothing like bringing together people in the community together for something so empowering and something, just so uplifting, because it's all about, as you know, as an acupuncture, it's all about the energy, isn't it? So the energy in this space is going to be like unbelievable, right?
Term that I like, my dear friend, Stephen Cowan, who does a lot of teaching with the Academy. He's a developmental pediatrician, a wonderful guy. He's come up with what, I don't know if he came up with, we use this term between us a lot, because what children do is serious play. Ever watch children play, like at the park, and they're doing the thing? They're playing, but they're very serious about it, right? They're very mindful. They get into whatever activity. They're fully engaging their imaginations and their bodies. And I like to say this is going to be an afternoon of healing, but serious play. A lot of opportunities to come and do different things. And I should say, it's definitely open for all ages. We're going to have, I feel that community, in any community, the children are often the teachers. And we've had a lot of different kinds of community activities where it was the kids, the young kids, who would step in first, and the parents would follow. They would, they're less, sometimes inhibited about certain things. So on a couple of occasions where we do things where there's group dancing, which we'll have all kinds of different things, the kids jumped in and did it first, and then the parents followed. It was a really cool thing. They were the guys. So we're going to welcome people of all ages. We're going to have some activities that are more family.
Beautiful. I think the kids get it. In this world, you mention these kinds of things to a kid, and they understand. They get it. They feel it. The adults, sometimes it's harder because they know an old way of living, an old way of thinking, but we can all change. That to me is the message for me, is that everybody out there is, wants a different life, a new, loving, peaceful life. Yeah.
One of the sweet things about an event like this, where we're really bringing lots of different practices and lots of different together, is this cross-fertilization. And what I hope to have come out of here is not just people being individually inspired, but that a lot of people will meet people maybe they didn't know. But what happens a lot is there's people that know each other from a different context, that they'll be like, oh, you're into this too. Maybe I love when this happens. I see it happen all the time. People work together in a law office or whatever that might be, right? Find out, oh, I didn't know you do this. You're into that. And then they make a connection, and it might change the whole nature of their office forevermore. You never know, where a lot of this is just dropping seeds, and they can germinate many years decades, sometimes later. I really feel like some of the work that you were doing decades ago, right?
It was
were
decades.
Seeds, and I was dropping seeds decades ago. These are things that are flowering and coming to fruition now.
Yeah. People are ready now, aren't they? And I know that we're kind of out of time, and we could go on like a long time. You have so much to share. I want to ask you how they can be sure to, is there a website, or do they go to Eventbrite to be able to get the,
Right now, the only thing on our 3wombs.com page, so it's the number 3, not
yeah, 3wombs.
.com. You'll see that flyer there, and they can just click the link and go and read more about the event and get their tickets. As we get closer to the event, we're going to be enrolling more and more out about the schedule and the different people. It's still very fluid and coming together. But it's
It's going to be a happening. So, but they should just go to the number 3, WOMBS.com, and they can click on
the link to get their free tickets. Yes, absolutely.
Beautiful. Beautiful. It's free. It's going to involve many organizations, many people who are, kind of on some kind of spiritual path, and people, like you say, that know nothing about these things. And someone said, come with me, kind of thing. Right. And the right people will show up. That I always know.
Okay. Yeah. I'm looking forward to expecting it.
Thank you. Thank you. It's so good to see you. It's been a while, and just keep up this amazing work that you're doing to help transform our community and the world.
Thank you, Meredith. You too.
Thanks, Dan.
All right,
Great to see you. And I do want to thank Mita Saxena, our engineer, technical director at the Brahma Kumaris Meditation Center, who's always there to help so many people, people in need like me, right? Don't know what I'm doing all the time technically, but Mita knows what to do and teaches classes and so many other things, at the center.
Yeah,
so
she was extremely vital to this conversation today.
Yeah, right. And she's extremely vital to the center too. So it's really good to get to be with you, Dan. Take care. Om Shanti.
Have a beautiful day.
Bye-bye.